Many people have remarked that climate change needs the same kind of response as the coronavirus
Mhm.
outbreak. Obviously, these are two very different situations, but that's how urgent climate change is. And there are many people who
Absolutely.
are not realizing that. Um, how are you tapping into and learning from the younger generations who, seem to have the voices that are able to propel climate change into a global conversation, whether it's someone like the climate activist Greta Thunberg to, one of our teens or millennials or Gen Zs in any of New York City's five boroughs?
So the urgency that we are having to essentially experience around this pandemic and COVID-19 is exactly what we should have around climate change. And I think many of us have actually been talking about that for many years. I think, Greta and young people have really, over the last year, 2 years, brought the attention to different levels. But I do want to note that young people have been activated around climate action for years. Personally through our New York City young people, we have a program called Junior Ambassadors who have been activated around climate-related issues for the last few years. One of my favorite examples is we have a number of young ambassadors in the South Bronx who are committed to SDG 14, which is life underwater. And what they're committed to is cleaning up the South Bronx River, which is one of the dirtiest waterways in New York City. So that activation has been there. It has really been this connection, though, with national governments, with leadership and thought leadership that is hopefully going to take it to the next level. But we need to continue to drive this. This is really where the private sector needs to continue to push government, and government needs to continue to push the private sector around better policies related to climate change. The other thing that I want to mention that New York City has been very committed to over the last few years is climate accountability. So two of the things that we've done in this area that have been very important, and we need to have young people continue to push this, but again, the private sector and other governments, but we divested our pension funds from the large fossil fuel companies. And that has been very important in terms of putting our mouth where our money is, or whatever that saying is. But also, it really has been incredibly important. We have sued the fossil fuel companies for what happened during Superstorm Sandy. This is something that they knew could happen, and they still went about their business without any changes. And so I think it's us in terms of communities and governments representing these communities, really asking for climate accountability as well. So not just saying we need the private sector to change, but for us to actually get activated and hold them accountable.
And on those youth climate activists, I have two of them that live in my house, uh,
Yeah.
and they refer to themselves as such, as activists. Don't dare bring a plastic straw into our home.
But that's actually a really great point. But this is where young people, refuse to use single-use plastics. This is where they can really make a voice. And I think I talked about consumer behavior and the role of the private sector in that. We actually partnered with Swell about a year or 2 years ago, and they made a huge donation to all of our New York City high school students, where they got Swell bottles. But this is to really encourage this, to stop using plastic bottles for just water, and that kind of behavior change is actually really critical. And it's the young people that are really going to be driving that, which is exciting.